You know, Trump isn't creative. When he was trying to overturn the 2020 election, he really just had one play. He would call people and just yell at them. And now it seems people are yelling right back. Okay, maybe not yelling, but they're definitely talking back, and some are talking to the feds. This week, we learned that former Trump lawyer and longtime ally Rudy Giuliani was interviewed in the special counsel's probe. Giuliani was Trump's megaphone for much of 2020 and 2021, spreading his lies about the voting system being rigged. According to a statement from Giuliani's spokesperson, the meeting was, quote, voluntary. Now, we don't know exactly what questions were asked during that interview, but we do know that Jack Smith has at least 2 investigations about which we are aware, one regarding the classified documents and the other about trying to overturn the 2020 election results. Now, I'm going to emphasize those are the ones about which we're actually aware. There could be others going on. We've already seen what Jack Smith can do. The indictment against Trump in the Mar-a-Lago documents case, it's damning and it's lengthy. Now we may be close to seeing what else Jack Smith can do to hold Trump accountable for trying to destroy our democracy. Joining me now, former personal counsel to Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, the host of the Mea Culpa podcast, co-host of the Political Beatdown podcast, author of Revenge and Disloyal, and principal of the company Crisis X. Michael, my friends, always so good to have you here. You and I are always having a free flow.
Good to have you too, Katie.
Yes, Michael, thanks for joining us. You and I are always free flow on this. So this is my first question for you. You were pretty much the first one at bat to be able to say, I am going to talk to the feds about what I know about Donald Trump. What is it telling you that it seems to be a race to the finish line now for people like Taylor Buttigieg, Rudy Giuliani, let me make sure I don't miss, Mike Roman, Gary Michael Brown? I mean, there's a lot of people, Michael, that are saying, I want what Michael Cohen has done.
Right. The only difference, though, is I want to be very clear. I received no benefit from providing the cooperation that I did. Rudy may be crazy, but he's not stupid. And he knows that it's going to be the first to the gate that's going to end up getting what it is that they're looking for. And that's some sort of a benefit. Now, from what I'm also reading, Jack Smith may not be interested in providing the immunities that, for example, the Southern District of New York gave people like David Pecker or Alan Weisselberg. So, look, Rudy has a lot to consider at the moment, but nevertheless, I do believe, again, that he may be crazy, but he's not stupid. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Michael, let's talk about that Manhattan DA indictment that's kind of been on the back burner a little bit because everybody's been talking about that federal indictment on the classified documents case. My friend Joyce Vance put out a really good Substack about what happened recently in a Manhattan courtroom, and I'm just going to quote a little bit of it here. A federal judge heard testimony from Alan Garten, who you know, the chief legal officer of the Trump Organization. Alan testified under oath that there was no evidence that you worked on anything other than the hush money in exchange for the payments from Donald Trump. So there was no link to any official act of the presidency for Donald. And then Garten actually confirmed as well that some of the $420,000 payments that Trump made to you went to Stormy Daniels, and that he, as in Garten, was not aware of any of the work that Cohen did for Trump. I mean, Michael, this completely substantiates, corroborates, and validates and verifies what you've said from the beginning, that you were acting at the behest of your boss and client at the time, Donald Trump. How big is this mess up by the Trump legal team in the Manhattan DA's case?
Well, of course. I mean, it speaks for itself, but I have yet, other than Donald calling me a convicted perjurer, there hasn't been anything that I've said that either hasn't come true or hasn't been corroborated, both by documentary evidence or by other people's testimony. So what Alan Garten did here is it's a pretty significant mess up. Again, as you just appropriately stated, it corroborates everything that I said.
Michael, there's a lot of talk about a guy named Boris Epstein or Epstein. It depends on who you're talking to, kind of like DeSantis or DeSantis. Boris has now been called kind of the gatekeeper or the quarterback of the Trump legal team. I'd like to think in a lot of ways, when you worked with Donald, though, you kind of were a consigliere. You were somebody who was there that was overseeing a lot of stuff that was going on in Donald Trump's world. In your opinion, has Boris tried to take over the reins from you? Has he tried to fill in shoes that you actually were filling when you were working as personal counsel to Donald Trump?
Right. So good luck, because Boris is a moron. Sadly, when Boris became part of the campaign, Boris was like, as I like to refer to him, and others did as well, he was like the little lapdog that was trying to figure out how to get close to Donald's leg. That's all he wanted. And now that he's there, he has no real experience. He may be a lawyer. He may be. I don't know if I would even consider him to be smart. But one thing he's not is he's not strategic, because everything that has happened to Donald over the course of, we'll call it Boris's reign, has not inured to Donald's benefit, not one iota.
Michael, and because of that, part of it is because there's a stable of lawyers that come and go that represent Donald Trump. You were obviously an attorney for him for many years. I have to ask you, and I want you to answer objectively, is it organized chaos to have this many lawyers in Trump world? Is it strategic, or really is it as much of a blank show, as some people would call it? I mean, because it just seems to be so disorganized. You have so many lawyers that are retained, so many people representing him in all of these different civil and criminal cases, and yet they're continuously losing.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult. Alan Dershowitz once said, I don't lose because I'm not a good lawyer. I lose because the cases are impossible to win. That's the problem with Donald Trump's cases. They are impossible to win simply because, the evidence that is there is so significant and it's so in your face. You have recordings of Donald Trump basically confessing to taking documents, to showing top secret national security. Not basically, he is confessing to the crime that Jack Smith is accusing him of. So it doesn't make a difference if God himself came down from the heavens to represent Donald. You still cannot get past the fact that the recording is Donald's voice, regardless of what he says. The documents will be shown to be the top secret documents that dealt with Iran in an attack, no matter how many things he wants to say. They were golf shirts, they were diapers, they were newspaper clippings. It doesn't make a difference. It is what it is. There are other people that were in the room that are corroborating exactly what Jack Smith is purporting it to be. So it doesn't really matter. And yes, Donald Trump operates in a world of chaos. That's the only way that he knows how to operate. The difference between when I was there with working for Donald and the group that's there today, we never had this sort of national attention on issues that deal with not just national security, but basically our country's democracy. We didn't have that. We had, myopic real estate nonsense and so on, and some stupid things that Donald would do. But it wasn't on the scale and the level that things are at now.
Simply amplifying what a lot of people have said, which is, if he hadn't have run for office, where would Donald Trump be? Michael Cohen, my friend, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
The same, and a happy 4th to everybody.
Thanks.